Hi, I'm Gillian Bradford, a long-time behind-the-scenes writer and producer at The Squiz, and before that, an ABC journo. And for the next few weeks, I'm going to be bringing you a special Shortcuts series all about menopause, because there's no doubt menopause is having a real moment. While generations of women have suffered in silence, now we've got a whole bunch of medical professionals, celebrities and even the government out there shouting from the rooftops that it doesn't have to be this way. If you missed it earlier in the year, the Albanese government actually committed $500 million to women's health, with a big slice of that going towards funding better GP care and treatments for us ladies when we hit that perimenopause stage. And we know this whole topic is a big one for our audience. Thank you to all the Squizzers who filled out the survey when we asked what you wanted to know. We got more than 1,000 responses. And you told us, among other stuff, that you just wanted some really sharp, factual info to make sense of all the noise out there about menopause and perimenopause. And nearly all of you want to know about food and lifestyle changes that can make a difference, plus the treatments that can manage symptoms. So in this special 3-part Shortcut series, we're going to get all across perimenopause and menopause. We're going to have an episode dedicated to what you can do to help feel better, and another one all about HRT, or hormone replacement therapy. But in this Squiz Shortcut, we're kicking off with the basics. What's happening to our bodies, some of the most common symptoms, and when women should be seeing their doctor for help. I'm super excited to say our first guest is Dr. Sarah White. Sarah is the CEO of Jean Hales for Women's Health, which is a national not-for-profit organisation dedicated to improving outcomes for women across Australia. She's also a member of the National Women's Health Advisory Council. Dr. Sarah White, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today.
Pleasure to be with you, Gillian.
Sarah, I imagine the very fact that we're having this conversation, like the fact we want to talk about menopause for 3 episodes on a news podcast, it really has come out of the shadows of secret women's business.
It absolutely has. And we've gone, I think it's this Gen X, us Gen Xers, we want to share, we want to talk. We don't want to go through that period of menopause as our mothers did, saying nothing. We're actually out there trying to make things better for everybody, really.
So let's start with the basics. I think most people get that menopause is when your periods have finished. And I think the medical measure is 12 months after your last period. But a lot of the 30-year-olds around our office are like, what even is perimenopause? Just explain to us what's going on in our bodies.
Well, perimenopause is just that lead up to when your periods finally stop. So during perimenopause, you've got your ovaries producing less estrogen, less progesterone. Your cycle becomes really irregular. You might miss a month. You might have really heavy bleeding one month. And we used to sort of talk about perimenopause. The definition is when your periods, your cycles start changing and your periods start changing. So it's really just a period of some years, differs by the individual, and it technically ends at menopause. And after menopause, one day after menopause, when you've 12 months since your last period, you're in postmenopause.
Why is there such a huge range of stuff that women can feel during perimenopause?
That's a tricky question, Gillian, because when you look at things that are absolutely caused by those decreasing hormones, we know that hot flushes, we sometimes call them vasomotor symptoms, but hot flushes and night sweats, that's one of the really common symptoms. That's about 70 to 80% of women will have those hot flushes. Vaginal dryness, some genitourinary symptoms. So you might have UTIs, you might have issues there, painful sex, for example. And then a lot of people talk about sleep issues, which is probably the night sweats more than the decreasing hormones. So there's a bit of a range of symptoms, and it's really hard sometimes to tell what's primarily because of those hormones decreasing and what's secondary to just feeling a bit rotten and not having that sleep. So things like anxiety and depression, for example. We know that menopause transition is a period of vulnerability, whether that's secondary to everything else going on or it's absolutely related to the hormone decrease. We're not entirely sure.
So you've mentioned a lot of the really common symptoms there, but what should women consider normal and when is it time to go to the GP?
Look, I would encourage everyone to go to the GP. If there's anything, actually, if you think you're in perimenopause, you're having these symptoms, I actually think it's really important to go and talk to your GP about it, because one of the challenges is that these symptoms can be kind of a bit vague, and some of these symptoms can be caused by other things. So hot flushes could be a result of your thyroid perhaps not working well. So I actually would encourage this as an opportunity to go and have a good general health check to set yourself up to experience a really good menopause or just keep your health in check.
And I think another reason you'd probably encourage people to go to the GP is because a lot of the things that are happening to us around that time might be invisible. So there's things around bone health and cardiovascular things. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, spot on, Gillian. So we know that our bone health starts to go down as we get older, and certainly there is a protective effect of estrogen on bone health. So you want to go and talk to your doctor about your heart health, your bone health, so that you can start to make some of those lifestyle changes to make sure you're aging really well, right? We're living a third of our lives after menopause. So things like doing our weight-bearing activity, that strength training, keeping active, focusing on our diet, these are really important things, particularly after menopause. So go to talk to your doctor and getting a really good baseline health check for those silent things that start to change after menopause is a really terrific idea.
Okay, well, next up with Dr. Sarah White, we're going to be talking about the conversations every woman should be having when they hit this stage of life. Sarah White, I've had older mates who've had periods so heavy they've had to pull a car over. Others with anxiety or depression so crippling they haven't left the house. It might have taken them a year to see their GP. Has this been pretty common until even fairly recently that women think they have to endure this?
Absolutely. And it's not even just menopause. You think about it, we power through things so often without seeking help. When we ask young women about heavy periods due to any sort of condition like endometriosis, lots of them don't go and see their doctor because maybe it's normal or maybe they're just a bit too embarrassed. So we women tend to put our health far down the track, after partners, after dogs, after everybody else. We tend to deprioritize our own health. So there are a lot of women who will be experiencing these things like anxiety or depression at midlife and just thinking they have to soldier on. So I'd always encourage you, if you've got anything at all that is hard or is affecting your quality of life, go and talk to your doctor about it.
And how confident are you that the average Aussie GP is giving good quality advice to women coming to them?
That's a very tricky question to answer. When Jean Hales did the National Women's Health Survey back in 2023, we actually asked women 45 to 64, how did you, when you went and talked to your doctor about menopause, how reassured and believed did you feel? And in fact, most women said that they felt believed and reassured. We know, though, that there are doctors out there who are not up on their knowledge or who are perhaps not coming across as empathetic as they should be. So unfortunately, we do, in every walk of life, Gillian, right, we have good and bad practitioners. We do have some bad practitioners out there in GP land, but most are pretty good. Unfortunately, if you come across someone who's not providing you with the comfort or the sense of assurance, sense that you're being believed, it is a case of going to find another doctor. Really, really hard when we say that for rural and regional women. But for menopause, in fact, there are some really good telehealth options out there. And so if you can't find a local doctor, there are some good telehealth options, and it is quite okay to have a discussion about menopause and telehealth. You don't usually need a physical assessment.
Sarah White, I know a lot of women second guess their own symptoms, but you've actually got a really, really good resource at Jean Hales that will allow them to kind of triage that at home before they go to the doctor.
Absolutely. So if you go to the Jean Hales website and look for the menopause checklist, you'll come across a PDF that you can actually just print out and just tick the things that are bothering you, note how much they're bothering you, which is important, take that along with you to your doctor, and it will really help focus the conversation on the things that are most bothering you. So, such a vague array of symptoms that we sometimes worry about when it comes to menopause. This list is the top group that you need to be thinking about.
Now, we are doing a whole episode on HRT, or I know as we're calling it now, MHT, menopausal hormonal therapy. But just broadly, is that a conversation most women should be having with their doctor when they do have that conversation about perimenopause and menopause?
Yes, absolutely. Now, look, MHT, as we tend to call it, is not a silver bullet. It's not going to suit everybody. It's not going to be beneficial to everybody. Some people have MHT and it doesn't really do much for them. Some people can't have MHT because they have, perhaps it's a risk of clotting or stroke. But for most women, it is a really, really good option. And I know we've had scares in the past about the risks of MHT. Those risks are not zero, but they're certainly not large. And I think it's really important you go along and have a conversation with the doctor who can talk to you about your family history, your own personal history when it comes to conditions and issues, and have a really good discussion with the doctor. But certainly don't be scared of going to talk about MHT, but don't think it's a silver bullet either. It really is going to be about getting your exercise, eating well, trying to sleep well, and MHT can help with all those things, but you do need to look at your whole lifestyle, not just a silver bullet as a patch or a gel or a tablet.
And Sarah, that's one of the interesting things about Jean Hales, that you do really support women to manage their own health, not just with their GP. And you do acknowledge there is a place in menopause for natural therapies, because that is a path some women will choose.
That's absolutely right. And I think one of the big things we have to recognise is that it's really important for women to have choice. There are some natural therapies that can help. MHT can help some. There are now non-hormonal treatments that can help other women. And, sometimes this discussion around menopause, and particularly around menopause hormone therapy, can get really polarised and a little bit sort of nasty sometimes. It's really strange that we have this sort of polarised discussion around a medicine that's first-line treatment and really effective for women going through menopause. There's a camp that thinks you just have to soldier through. There's a camp that thinks MHT will be a silver bullet. And really, I think it's important that women get as much good information as they possibly can, and that's from trusted sources. That's not necessarily from your TikTok or your Instagram. And have a look at what the international menopause societies are saying. So the Australasian Menopause Society in Australia, Jean Hales, and really arm yourselves with a variety of pieces of information that's holistic.
Dr. Sarah White, thank you for kicking off this series with us. And I'm going to link to the terrific Jean Hales for Women's Health website in our episode notes. It has the most fantastic, easy-to-read info on everything to do with perimenopause and menopause. And next week, we're all about the stuff we can do, like food and lifestyle, to help ourselves feel better. Thank you for listening, and remember to share this episode with your mates who want to hear all about menopause. Until next time.